Hey guys, Philaris here. So Preseason 13 has been on PBE since yesterday, and I've spent several hours testing the new changes and a bunch of clears. I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on things now, so I wanted to give a quick overview of the jungle changes and what they mean for clearing and jungle as a whole. Right off the bat, I actually think the changes are really good. They move jungle in a really healthy direction for the game in terms of power budget, ease for beginners, champion variety. That being said, there's a lot of rough edges and bugs in how things are implemented right now. I'm sure these will be addressed before Season 13 goes live, but I do want to make sure to highlight them in the video. They're really major pain points, and this will just be, my small part in hopefully getting them fixed. Alright, let's talk about clearing overall, and then I'll get into the specifics of why these changes have happened. On the whole, the hierarchy of clearing has been collapsed a little bit, and what I mean by this is the faster clearing junglers, generally speaking, have slowed down because of the removal of all the fancy double camping stuff that you can do. And the slower clearing junglers have sped up, and the reason for this is they've increased the HP on every single camp by a pretty significant margin, and as compensation, they've made the jungle pet do quite a lot of damage. Okay, you can see it hits for 26 true damage per auto here, and it has a pretty generous hit rate. Okay, so what this means is, just like I talked about in the video a couple days ago as a potential change, this makes it so that a larger percentage of your damage is sourced from the jungle pet. So it's consistent no matter what champion that you play, right? And this means that a lot of the slower clearing junglers have kind of caught up, and this means a lot of the off-meta junglers have also caught up, right? If you think about some of the kind of fringe junglers like, say, Jax, or some of the old favorites like Set that can kind of jungle, but their clear is just a little bit too slow to be pleasant on live. They can actually clear decently well now. I ran some Set full clears. If you guys remember a few seasons ago, Set used to be an S tier jungler before they hit his base damages and hit his clear. Set can full clear in 320 now. It's not bad at all. It's really not bad. It's pretty healthy. It's pretty easy. And there's a lot of junglers like this. I tried out Set. I tried out Quinn, Renekton. All of these guys, almost all of them can actually kind of jungle now. Are they going to be S tier junglers? Probably not. But are they playable? Yeah, actually. So I think that this change really helped Riot accomplish that goal of opening up the jungle pool a bit. Okay? So on the whole, I would say the fastest clearers on average have slowed down, and the slower clearers have moved up. Based on my tests, I think that the faster junglers tend to finish at around 310 or so now, and the slower junglers finish more in the range of, say, 325, 330. Now, 330 might not sound that great, and it's not, but it's much better than before for some of these champions. And Scuttle Crab spawn has also been moved back. It no longer spawns at 315. It now spawns at 330. It also has no shield. All right. So this has several big implications. I'll touch on it briefly. This is not just for jungle, but also for lanes. With the 315 Scuttle spawn, it meant that there was like this kind of pattern that emerged with laning, where laners would kind of crash the third wave at around 3 minutes if they had prio in the early game, and then they would either take a recall and cheat a recall, or they would come help their jungler secure crab. This timer doesn't really work anymore because Scuttle spawns 15 seconds later. So now I'm expecting two different metas, or two different kind of patterns to emerge for early game pushing laners. Number one is they're actually going to push faster than before. They're still going to crash third wave, but they'll try to crash it at more like 255 or a bit before, because now you can take your recall, run all the way out, and be at Scuttle spawn at 330 with an item. So it's just like before, but even more abusive. Okay, I think the other pattern that may emerge is just going for a fourth wave crash. Crashing at more like 315, for example, so that then you can come out 315, 320, and you can come out and support your jungler on the Scuttle Crab. So there's going to be some changes to early lane jungle dynamics as a result of these changes. And some of the faster full clearers, you can probably just full clear and then gank, and then come back for crab now, which is going to be pretty interesting. Some of the 3 campers, they had this weird interval where you would go like red, blue Gromp or red Raptors Gromp, go out for a gank, help push the wave. You come back out and it's at like 305 and you're like, what do I do? Do I just wait 10 seconds for Scuttle Crab? Or do I go do a camp and then risk being late to crab? Right? I think that this is kind of hammered out now, where you're going to have enough time on your hands to go take a camp before the crab quite safely. On the topic of lane jungle dynamics, though, I think that these new changes have pretty significant consequences. All right. Number one, because more of the damage is sourced from the jungle pets and the camps are actually tankier, it's harder for laners to take your camps as a jungler. This is nice, right? It's not impossible for them to take it, but it just takes them longer, which discourages them from doing it. And I think that any low yellow jungler, any newer jungler can really appreciate this, because sometimes laners just go and take your shit and it's super, super unpleasant. All right, let's talk about clearing and what's changed about it. If you watched my video a couple days ago, I talked about the new shortened leash ranges and the negative consequences that would have for the game. Now, they haven't increased the ranges per se. They're still just as small as I showed in that video. But just before the patch went live on PvE, they actually completely changed how patience actually works. Okay, so what would happen before is if you exited the patience range of the monster, it would start to lose patience gradually, just like on live. This has now been changed. Okay, if the monster is still in its patience radius, it won't lose patience even if you are outside of its patience radius. Both you and the monster need to be outside of this leash range in order for it to start to lose patience. Okay, what this means is that even though the actual leash indicators are quite small, in reality, you can almost add like 50, 100 units or even more to that patience range because you get to stand outside of them now. Okay, and what this means is that even though it looks super, super small, the ranges aren't that different from before. Okay, they're still smaller, but it's not that drastic anymore. This fixes a lot of the problems that I pointed out to a certain degree. Like, for example, I assumed you wouldn't be able to kite the red buff into the bush and kind of see if someone's invading from over here. But now you actually can, right? Even if you're exiting the range, the red buff isn't, so now we can see around the bend again. That being said, it's kind of like halfway of what it was before. You can poke around the bush at red, but you can't do it with blue anymore, right? Which is understandable given that they need to remove double camping from the game. So it sucks, but at least they've pulled back part way, right? Now, funnily enough, as a result of them pulling back at the last second, they actually reintroduced double camping into the game. There's actually a spot on the ground here where you can still double camp, which is pretty funny to me, right? So Fiddlesticks, all these other champions, anyone that can kind of leash at a range is still able to double camp here. I'm sure this is unintentional, so I'm pretty sure this is going to get fixed before the patch goes live, because they really want to remove double camping. But as of right now, it's actually still in the game for Blue and Gromp. Can't do it on any other camp, but you can do it here. You can, however, still do kind of like camp transitions, double camp transitions, because of the way patience has been changed, right? If I drop a ward here so I can see, what's kind of interesting now is that if I drop my E onto this red, it'll pull over, but it won't lose patience all the way until here, where it exits its patience radius. So what that means is there's some pretty interesting camp transitions that have now opened up, because while you're finishing the raptors, you can kind of aggro the red, it'll start to pull out, it won't lose any patience, and then you can kind of walk up to meet it. Okay, so I would say double camp transitions are still in the game, they're still present, but double camping as a whole, just expect this one to be fixed. I don't think this is going to ship. Now, they've also made patience just a lot friendlier for beginners if you mess up. So what I mean by this is if I pull out of the range and it starts to lose patience, if I walk back in like decently close and pull the monster back in too, it'll actually slowly start to regenerate patience like this, which is quite nice, right? If you do manage to fuck up. Another thing that they've done is if you do actually reset the camp, let me show this here. It won't instant full reset now. See this red flashing bar? If you actually hit it while that bar is flashing, it'll re-aggro over to you instead of full resetting. But if you let that bar tick down for a couple seconds, then the camp will just full reset. So a couple mechanics here that just make patience a bit more approachable for beginners, so it's not quite as damaging if you do mess up. Now that being said, there is kind of one downside to this new system. And that is that you're not the one completely in control of patience, right? Monsters will walk to chase you, and they kind of walk like a certain amount based on their animations. And sometimes what happens is they'll just walk a little bit further than you expect, and they just pull a little bit outside of patience range when you're not expecting it. right? Whereas before, because you were in complete control of the range, you could just stop like 1 pixel before you exited the range. Now it's kind of awkward if you're trying to maximize the distance that you gain, because if you really push it, there's a little bit of RNG with if the camp actually walks like past the line or not. So I would say if they keep this system, don't fuck with patience too much. Don't try to like really maximize how far you go. Just stay a little bit closer to avoid this problem. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit more about pets at length. All right, the pets are quite interesting. As I mentioned before, their base damage is really big compared to the old jungle items to compensate for the higher HP on the camps. However, there's a lot of differences from the old jungle items. Number one, there's no more Omnivamp. Okay, the old jungle items provided 7% Omnivamp that applied at full effectiveness, whether it was AoE, single target DOT damage, right? This was massive for jungle sustain all throughout the game. This was problematic for jungle sustain all throughout the game. Right? Sustain in general was really in an awkward spot where junglers could exit lane with 20 HP, come out, smite and do one camp, right, in the mid game, come back out with full HP. This made absolutely no sense. Okay? And this was kind of like power budget for junglers that was misallocated, right? You would expect the jungler to recall after leaving with that little HP, but really, just like Raptor camps were basically like a battery of health in the mid game. This was super bad for the game, and with the removal of the Omnivamp on the jungle items, in addition to the fact that smites no longer heal, okay, jungle sustain throughout the game has been hit hard. Right? Let me just give an example here. If I level up to say 10 or 11 and tank some damage here. Okay. Oh shit, I have auto refresh HP on, right? Come out here. If I do this camp, smite it, right? All that. Let me actually auto refresh cooldowns here. Right? You can see my HP is not great. I didn't heal a whole lot off of doing this camp. Alright, I did heal a little bit at the end. What they've done is they've removed the big heal on Gromp, and they made every single camp give a little mini HP and mana regen heal, just like Gromp did. Okay, so Gromp is no longer super important compared to other camps for healing, and top laners are less incentivized to just randomly come take your Gromp to get the heal, right? They're going to take more damage than they actually recover from this. So jungle sustain in the first few levels on your first rotation is actually very good, right? The jungle pet, every time it autos, oopsies, my bad. Every time your jungle pet autos, it'll heal for 100% of the damage that it does to a single target. Okay, you see here, it deals 26 damage, and it's healing me for 26. This is really nice. The jungle pet actually hits in an AoE now, but even if it hits everything, it only heals me for 26, right? So it's not like 130 healing plus from hitting the Raptors, unfortunately, really. So really, jungle sustain in the early game is actually quite good now. I'd say most champions are able to full clear with, say, 75% HP remaining at the end without using potions. You're not going to have potions anymore. These items now cost 450. You can start with a red potion. You can no longer start with refill potion. So sustain's been hit in a lot of ways. No more Omnivamp. No more big Gromp heal. Right? No more sustain from refill potions. But we get this nice healing from our pet. Right? But I'm sure you guys can tell this pet healing's not going to be able to keep up throughout the game. When you start killing camp super fast, the pet's just not going to get a whole lot of autos off. Okay? So jungle sustain way down in later stages of the game, but pretty good in the early stages of the game. I think this is incredibly healthy for the game. I think it made absolutely no sense that a jungler could go gank, leave with 10 HP, everybody thinks he recalled, but he heals 75% of his HP off of doing Gromp and smiting it, and then he comes back out and kills you. That just made no sense to me. Okay, so does this make jungle weaker? Yes, absolutely. It makes jungle way weaker in the mid to late stages of the game. However, this means that Riot has more power budget to work with to make jungle stronger in healthier ways. Okay, so that's what's changed about sustain. Now, other things about the pets. Okay, the pets are quite interesting. They scale, their damage scales off of bonus HP, AD, AP, okay, but the scaling is really significant off of bonus HP in particular. Why is this important? All of the tank mythics have had Bammies removed from their build path, right? Sunfire and Chemtank are no longer mythics. Iceborne Gauntlet has been moved to Frostfire Gauntlet, and it's now a Sheen item. Okay, so if we take a look at the tank mythics here, Icathia's Endurance, Radiant Virtue, Goliath's Ascendancy, Iceborne Gauntlet, right? None of these have Bammies, and I was very worried about tank junglers coming into this patch, because how do you clear if you don't have Bammies? But the thing is, the HP ratio on the jungle items, or the jungle pets, is massive. It is absolutely massive. Per 1,000 HP, you get 40 extra damage on them, okay? This is a much more generous ratio than you get for AD and AP. So what this means is, tanks, their pets are going to hit fucking hard on the camps, okay? Let me level up here a bit and get some gold and show you what I mean. So let me purchase the Goliath's Ascendancy, and let's say I pick up like a Titanic Hydra here. Okay, you're going to see that my pet is going to chunk here if I actually buy a pet. Oopsies. There we go. All right, let's see here. Okay, 85 damage. 85 damage per auto, right? Let's change this over to AD items. Say I sell this, and I pick up Ghostblade and Eclipse as an example. Like I'm an assassin, okay? Let's see how much it does. If it'll actually hit. And this is what I mean, the pets are very buggy right now. 38, right? Much, much lower. It still does go up, but not nearly as much as with HP. So this is kind of the mechanic that Riot has introduced to even out clearing between tank and non-tank junglers, right? Carry junglers will individually, the champion will do a lot more damage to the camps, but their pets will do less, and vice versa for the tank junglers, okay? So pretty smart numbers, and I think this was a pretty good solution to this problem. All right, now let's talk about jungle pets and their level up system. It's a pretty interesting system, okay? There's 3 different pets, red, blue, green. You can pick your Pokemon. They all start with 40 charges. Every time you kill a camp, you gain a charge, or rather you lose a charge. It goes down from 40 to 39, right? At rank 1, Smites do 600 damage. This has been raised from 450. Once the charges drop to 20 or below, your Smite gets upgraded to rank 2, where it now deals 900 damage, and it becomes an active Smite, just like on live, okay? The active Smite does the same thing for all 3 pets. It does some damage, true damage, and it slows the target, right? There's also a rank 3 pet. When you drop to 0 treats, your Smite will upgrade again to do 1200 damage, and this is great for not getting outsmited by laners, aka a buff to Phylaris, because I always miss my Smite. And it deals kind of half the damage in an AoE around the monster. And this works for minions as well, right? So single target champions get a bit of extra clearing. This is super, super nice. It's like old purple Smite. Also, all of the jungle pets gain a persistent effect, okay? I'm not going to go over this in too much depth here because it takes a while to set up, but the TLDR is the blue one gives movement speed when you kill a monster or enter a bush. The red one deals true damage and slows champions when you build up to 100 charges. And the green one gives a persistent shield, which will also give slow resistance and tenacity while it's active and right after it breaks. As far as when you should expect to hit your upgraded Smites, I did some testing, and I would say if you're farming your camps at a decent rate, you should expect to hit your upgraded Smite on your your third rotation, around the 720 to 8 minute mark. When you're starting up your third rotation is when you will get to 20 charges, okay? And you should expect to hit the third rank around the 13 to 16 minute interval. This will vary, of course, based on how quickly you're farming, whether you get neutrals, because neutrals give 3 stacks each, okay? So it'll vary from game to game. It'll also vary based on how much you're actually farming. If you're ganking a lot and not farming as much, then naturally you're going to hit the Smite a little bit later, okay? On this topic, though, Riot kind of added a contingency for this to avoid farm junglers getting their upgraded Smites way before gank junglers. You will still get it before them, but it's not that much earlier. And the reason for this is what you see right here. Treats, cookies, okay? This is an interesting system where once per minute, you will stack up a treat. And this goes on indefinitely, right? It doesn't stop at 1 or 2 treats. Whenever you have a treat, if you kill a monster, okay, you don't just get 1 charge, you get 2 charges expended, right? Let me show this here. So 38, this will actually drop down to 36, but I'm going to lose one of these treats. You can see it went down from 12 to 11, right? This does also mean that's an extra 15 gold and XP when I killed that monster, right? Because each treat gives 15 golden XP. So what this does is it kind of balances things out a little bit so that gank junglers don't hit their upgraded smites too late because they're accruing these treats over the course of the game, right? Now, farm junglers accrue the treats as well, so they will still get their smites faster, but this kind of balances out a bit. Now, the way these treats work is when you buy your jungle item at the start of the game, after 2 minutes, you'll get your first treat, and after every 1 minute after that point, you will generate one treat. There is a bit of a feature slash bug right now. The way it works is if you buy it before 1 minute, it'll take 2 minutes for the monster to come, or the first cookie to come. If you buy it after 1 minute, right, it'll take more like 50 to 60 seconds. So there's this interesting thing where if you're actually AFK at the start of the game, if you're gonna buy your item at like 58 seconds, the treat won't, your first treat won't come until 258. But if you buy it at like 101, it'll come at 201, right? So it's kind of funny. This means that when you load into the game, it actually matters when you buy your item. Don't AFK, buy your jungle item right away so you can get the treat as early as possible, right? But if you do happen to come in late, it's actually better to buy your jungle item later, past the 1 minute mark. I'm hoping this gets changed because it's very unintuitive, but it's kind of funny, to be honest. It'd be interesting if they did this with trinkets as well, where you don't start to get the trinket recharge until you actually purchase it. This would force people to actually buy trinkets as soon as they load in, which would maybe help with people AFKing at the start of the game. But yeah, I don't expect this to go live. I think it's just like an oversight. It's kind of strange that it works like this. Alright, now I want to talk about the big downside of pets. And this is what I meant earlier when I said that there's like severe bugginess with the way these are implemented. And this is the thing that is really killing the changes for me. Right? I really hope this gets changed when it goes to live. The pets have probably the worst AI I have experienced in 12 years of League. They are about as awful as you can imagine, unfortunately. They move around in really strange directions. They get creep blocked. They cancel their autos. They're super, super inconsistent. And this is really problematic because so much of your damage and sustain is based on the pets now. Okay? Like, you can see here, like, if I click around a lot, look at my pet, man. Look at my pet. It just keeps canceling its autos. It just keeps rerouting. It never hits. And the optimal DPS of a pet is really high. That's why this is so problematic. If I just stand still and let my pet auto, it's not bad. Look at this, right? Maybe an auto a second, sometimes even faster. This is a lot of damage and a lot of sustain. Alright, but as soon as you start kiting, the AI of the pet gets really, really fucked up, and this creates a weird thing right now where if you want to clear optimally, you actually kind of have to stand still for most of your clear, which is really unpleasant, right? The more you kite, the more you move, the less your pet hits, and this makes it so that the champions that really want to kite, like Kindred or Zac, who has to pick up his blobs, they get completely fucked. Okay, their pet hits for so much less than the champions that stand still. It's really, really unplayable feeling. Okay, these pets are so inconsistent. So if you're on PvE, what I would recommend is just kite to the edge of range like as quickly as you can and then just stand there, right? Don't fuck around with moving around much. Just stand completely still so that your pet can actually auto at its maximum rate. What I'm hoping is that either the AI gets like really significant changes and the pets get ghosting so they don't get creep blocked, because right now they get creep blocked by everything. They can get stuck on the other side of raptors so they can't hit the big raptor and they just stand there. It's so silly. So I'm hoping that either the AI gets fixed and the pets get ghosting, or it just goes back to the old system where you get like the persistent tick once per second like the old jungle items, and they can do whatever they want visually, right? Have the pets hit or have some aura, whatever they want, as long as it's consistent. That's all I want, and I think that's all anybody wants. Okay, this is the single biggest problem of the patch for me that needs to be addressed, but I do have faith that they will fix this. Now, I do want to quickly go over jungle gold and XP. I'm not going to go over all the exact numbers for each camp, but they have all been adjusted by a small amount. It doesn't make a big difference, though. There have been no paths that have really changed in terms of level breakpoints. You still hit level 3 and level 4 off all of the same paths, so the adjustments are all pretty minor. They're mostly made to account for the fact that Krugs have been changed as a camp, which is great. Okay, the big Krug no longer splits into mediums. It now splits into 4 small Krugs. Okay, so this camp is basically just lost 2 medium Krugs worth of gold and experience. And this Gold and EXP has kind of been added back in on the big Krug and some of the other camps. So you don't really need to worry about this. All this really means is that Krugs is a lot faster to take now. Okay, it's a lot less annoying to take, and it's a lot less buggy to take. And all of the same level breakpoints still exist. Nothing has really changed from the major paths. However, it's good to note that when you're going like a Red Krugs Raptors opening, you can't miss a little Krug anymore and still hit level 3 off Raptors. You need to make sure you get all of the Krugs or you get stuck at level 2. Okay, but like 5 camp into Scuttle, that's still level 3. That's probably not even a relevant path anymore because Scuttle spawns have been pushed back. If you 5 camp, you can probably find a gank before doing crab. Right, full clear from either side still gets you to level 4. These 3 camps level 3. These 3 camps level 3. Right, none of the major like paths have really been changed. What has changed, however, is the amount of XP and gold that is allocated to junglers versus laners. Okay, even if junglers in the end they get a pretty similar amount of golden XP from clearing their camps, maybe actually a little bit higher than before because of the treats. The way the charge system works on the jungle items is whenever you lower a charge on your jungle item, and remember, you lower 1 charge whenever you kill a camp, and you lower 2 charges if you had a treat. Okay. Every charge that drops, you gain an additional 15 gold and experience. Right? So every camp has had its golden XP lowered, and in compensation, you get that back with the charge. This is pretty significant in that this is golden XP that is only accessible to the jungler, right? And not to the laners. And this is in addition to the 60 experience that you normally get on killing a large monster when you have a jungle item, or now jungle pet. Okay, so what this means is not only are the camps harder to kill for the laners because they're tankier, they also give less golden XP to them, right? More of the golden XP is based on having the jungle item. Okay, so this is just another mechanic that disincentivizes laners jacking your camps too often and too early in the game. Alright, that brings us to the end of this video. I'm hoping if you stayed this long that you learned some good information about Season 13. Do keep in mind to take everything that you watched and will watch with a grain of salt because this is early stage PvE. A lot of stuff is subject to change. A lot of stuff will change very rapidly. Hopefully some of these bugs by the time you watch this video are already eliminated. But yeah, thanks for watching. A gentle reminder that I do coach over on nice.gg. If you enjoyed the content, you can like, comment, subscribe, and as always, a big thank you to my Patreon supporters for helping to make this channel possible.